Hey folks, welcome back. As you can see in the intro, we've got Midnight Panic loaded up in the trailer. I have got the Pete in here, building air, getting ready to go hook up to the trailer and head for Santa Rosa, California. Myself and the whole family are going down there. We're gonna do 3 days worth of shows, and if everything goes well and the truck makes it, we're gonna drive up to Ridgefield, Washington and do one show on Sunday. So I'll do my best to bring you along and try and share this first outing with this truck with you guys.
6.5 hours later.
Both getting fitted, making sure their safety is first.
This one is debuting here for you tonight, the 1979 Ford. Out of Gold, Honda, Nevada.
Yeah.
This truck powered by a 460 cubic inch engine with 1,200 horsepower. Make some noise for Leroy Latham and Midnight Panic. And his wife was actually telling us as he drove from the truck over to the pit area, that is the furthest that truck has ever driven.
Yeah.
So when I say brand new, you guys are going to be the first ones to see it. So I got a really big question. Are you guys ready to see this brand new truck in the air? All right, Steve, you know what time it is. Let's do it. Looks like he's trying to line up for the stoppie. Looking for that stoppie, unable to make it come together for him.
One eternity later.
Make some noise for Leroy Latham at a gold Conn Nevada in Midnight Panic. We tested out the RII, made sure the remote ignition interrupter worked. He is fired back up. Let's party!
Well, I did not get nearly as much footage as I thought I might, during this first outing with the truck here. I did get a little bit, and we'll go over that video. I just thought I would jump on here and kind of just recap the weekend. So Wednesday night after work, we were already loaded up. We just jumped on the road and headed directly for Santa Rosa. We got down there fairly late, but we did get the truck tired up and basically ready to go before we went ahead and went to bed and got a decent night's sleep. The next day we got up and just kind of did a light bolt check and made sure everything was good to go. Everything was topped off fluid-wise, fuel, everything like that. And just kind of hung out until it was time for the 7 o'clock show. Now we had to take the trucks out and stage them for pit party. And on my way out there, this is actually the first time I had driven the truck with the new differentials and the big tires and everything. On the way out to pit party, I noticed that the transmission was not shifting to second gear at all. Now, the entire time that I've had this truck so far, I have felt like second gear has not been working right. I wasn't even sure that second gear has been working at all. It's been something I've kind of been struggling with, playing with pressures in the transmission off and on here and there, just not really focusing on it too much because I've just had so much other stuff to do on the truck. Well, I decided just kind of on a whim to grab my 13/16 end wrench and a 3/8 end wrench and check the band adjustment on this transmission. Normally, a C6, you would thread the adjusting bolt all the way in until it stops, roughly 10 inch-pounds, and then you back it off anywhere from 1 1/4 to 1 1/2 turns out. Well, when I went to run the bolt into the case till it stops, it took 3 full turns to get that bolt to stop in there. So obviously the band adjustment was way off. I don't know if it just never got done. Normally, before I do them, I will run that bolt in and seat it, seat the band against the drum, and then I will just store it like that if it's gonna sit for a while. So normally if I misadjust the band, if I don't adjust the band, it would be way tight. I don't know what happened there. Maybe somebody helped me adjust it. Maybe I adjusted it twice, but I don't know how I would adjust it twice without running the bolt in. Either way, I backed that bolt out, a turn and a quarter, locked the jam nut down, and the transmission has worked flawlessly all weekend. Second gear works really good. So anyway, after pit party, we went out. We did 2-trick or 2-wheel skill, whatever you want to call it. Nothing crazy there. We were just kind of feeling the truck out. I had no idea what was going to go on with the shocks or anything like that. So, I mean, that went okay. But then the next deal, there was no racing at this deal. It was a fair show, you know, during a state fair. And I guess it's pretty normal for them to cut racing out of the show during a fair. So there was no racing. We went out in freestyle. And immediately in freestyle, as I was pulling into the arena, I could feel the truck was turning, trying to turn the rear tires into the gate to try and get into the arena. I didn't know what was going on there, and it was kind of a, you know, it was kind of hectic trying to get the truck in there, understanding what was going on. I can't see nothing that's going on outside the truck. I was able to get it in the arena and kind of get it around a little bit, but I could tell the rear end, the rear steer, something was way off and it just wasn't working right. They eventually shut me down and said that the rear steer was just flopping around and the rams were broken. So we drove the truck off course as much as we could and basically just sat through the rest of freestyle off course strapped in the truck. As soon as I was able to get out of the truck and look it over, what had happened was the weld-on, you know, swivel eye bearings on the rod ends had popped completely off the cylinder, right off the rod end of the cylinder. So I just blamed the Chinese cylinder, cheap cylinder, you know, bad weld. Pretty disappointing, but it was a relatively easy fix. So that would put me at Friday. Friday morning I got up. We did patch the cylinders good enough to get the truck off course, get it back to the trailer. And then the next morning, Friday morning, I pulled the cylinders off of the truck, ground all the welds out, both the rod end and the barrel end, ground the welds out, preheated everything, and then welded them up the best I could with Jared Compton's little 110 welder, which that machine actually worked really good. We got them all welded up and reinstalled. I even considered pulling the front cylinders off and re-welding those as well. Unfortunately, I run out of time to pull the front cylinders, so we had to go out for the Friday night show as is. We did go out to the Friday night show. Everything went good. I didn't break the cylinders again. I didn't break the front cylinders, but I could definitely tell that the rear steering is just a little off, just not quite right. It turns too fast and it feels like it's uncontrolled. It's not like the pump is turning, you know, pumping fluid and moving the cylinders and the tires too fast. It's like it's not controlled. It's like the leverage of the tire is moving the hydraulics and not the hydraulics moving the tire. So we got through with pretty good two trick and freestyle, no carnage, no breakage, but we were able to get some air and kind of feel the shocks out a bit more. And by doing that, I did knock the seal loose between the two halves of the driver's side front tire. So Saturday, I got to spend all of my free time during the day breaking down a tire and resealing that tire, getting it all bolted back together so I could get it aired up and everything reinstalled pretty much just in time for the Saturday show. So Saturday show, we went out and everything went good. We got some pretty decent air, run pretty good two trick. And we're not doing anything crazy. We're just feeling the truck out. So from a crowd, you know, point of view, it might seem a little bit boring, but we're just making sure this thing isn't going to break in half or hurt either one of us, because Allison is actually in the truck riding with me. So two trick, we just hit a couple of jumps pretty good, feeling the truck out. We went back, parked in the pits, and waited for our turn in freestyle. Freestyle rolled around. We went out there and got after it pretty good, had a pretty good time. Again, immediately right off the bat, I could tell the rear steer is just not quite right. You know, it feels like the tires are flopping around. I was almost concerned that I had broken a cylinder again. So I limited, you know, most of my time on the floor during freestyle to basically just driving circles, kind of whipping shitties and, you know, having a good time, kind of drifting the truck around a little bit, hit a couple of jumps, did a little bit of a stoppie, you know, nothing too crazy. But when we got done with the freestyle Saturday night, I was able to get back to the trailer and we had to break the truck down, get it tired down, loaded up, and hit the road immediately after the Saturday night show. While breaking the truck down, I did look things over a little bit. There were no broken hydraulic cylinders. Everything looked good. We got the truck loaded, hit the road and made about a 10.5-hour drive to Ridgefield, Washington, which is actually just north of Portland, Oregon. So it was an all-nighter. We drove all night long. We took about a 2-hour nap at roughly the halfway point, maybe a little bit past halfway. We got there just in time to tire the truck up, and they didn't run us for two-trick. There was a little bit of confusion there. I don't know if the guy running the show thought that we weren't going to be ready. We were ready, had everything tired up, everything was ready to go. So we came out and run a freestyle at the Washington show. Everything went pretty good there. Again, could feel the tires flopping around. I could feel something funky with the rear steer. So we just kept it kind of just whipping around and hitting the pod a little bit. Called it good. I pulled off probably less than a 2-minute run. But again, I just wanted to look stuff over because it didn't quite feel right. Got back to the pits, and sure enough, the barrel end of the cylinders, the eyes had actually broken right next to where I had welded them on even better. So it wasn't a weld problem. You know, I don't think it's a cheap cylinder problem. I think actually what it is a hydraulic problem. I don't think the hydraulics are controlling just the sheer mass of the tires and all of the movement that's going on there. I think with as much offset as what these tires and wheels have on here, there's a lot of leverage against the hydraulics, and the hydraulics do not have a lot of leverage on the knuckle to work against that. So I think what is happening is the tires are basically just yanking the cylinder one way, forcing the hydraulic fluid back through the valve, back into the pump, and just hitting the end of the cylinders and breaking whatever lets go first. So after the freestyle in the first show in Washington, my quickest, easiest option to try and make the second show is grab my one spare cylinder that I had, bolt it on in place of one of the broken ones, remove both broken cylinders, and plumb the one cylinder so that I could just use both ends of that cylinder and use one ram, one hydraulic cylinder to steer the rear tires. Theoretically, it should work. On anything that doesn't have a 66-inch tire, that would work just fine for what we're going to do. I got it on the jack, bled the system back and forth. It was steering everything fine, everything cleared, it was all good. And we got all set up, ready to go for the second show. We got geared up, strapped in the truck and ready to go. When they called us out for intros, I put the truck in gear and started pulling forward, and it immediately started turning to where the rear of the truck was dog walking to the left. So the tires were basically turned to the right, and I was trying to counter steer. I was trying to make it go back. I couldn't understand why it wouldn't turn back to center. And when I looked back, I jumped out of the truck, looked back, there's hydraulic oil all over everything. Basically what had happened was it had pulled the cylinder out to the point that it broke the weld, the factory weld, on the barrel end of the cylinder. That allowed the cylinder enough to move to break the fitting that would have been the fitting I would use for counter steering it, and I pumped all of the hydraulic fluid onto the ground right there. I didn't have a solid link. I didn't have any way to repair the truck right then and there. So we decided to call it, ratchet strap the rear steer straight, tire down, put the little tires on it, loaded it in the trailer, and just called it a night. It was unfortunate that I couldn't make that last show, and aside from the problems with the hydraulic cylinders, I mean, it's frustrating, but all in all, for a brand new truck to go out there, 5 shows, crossing through 3 states. We actually visited 4 states total this weekend, counting our own home state. It was a busy weekend, and all in all, the truck really performed well. The shocks worked pretty dang good for right out of the box. The engine ran flawlessly, and it is a peppy unit for a little engine. This thing, it runs really good. I'm really happy that the transmission shifts to second gear now. That's something I've been fighting for a while. So to get that, sorted out, that was worth the trip all by itself, I feel like. I do have, a bit of a pickle to figure out with this hydraulic deal on the rear. I think my first stab is going to be, I have another set of cylinders coming. I'm going to use the same cylinders because even if I modify and try and build something beefier, I'm going to build it around these particular cylinders. So I ordered 2 more cylinders, and what I'm going to do is beef up how those swivel eyes are mounted on the cylinder itself. So I have those parts coming. I'm going to build those up next weekend and try and just build a beefier set of hydraulic cylinders to put on the rear steer. I am also going to look into the solenoid valve and see if there's any reason that thing, did I damage the valve and that's why, it's allowing fluid to go back through when it's not supposed to? Or is that valve just not rated for the kind of pressure that, that mechanical leverage pushing on the hydraulic cylinders is creating? Maybe it's making more pressure than that valve is rated for. One other thing I'm going to try to add, I ordered up 2 small flow control valves, and I'm going to put those on the feed lines for the rear steer. So even if there's too much pressure or there's too much leverage on this system, at least I think I can use those flow control valves to manage how fast the fluid goes back to the pump or back to the valve. It may still be too much pressure for the valve to actually hold the wheels in place, but at least they won't flop around. And I think that flopping, them allowing the cylinders to just yank one direction or another, is what is causing them to break mechanically. So I'm going to put some flow control valves on, so they're actually going to flow the return fluid back to the pump, and try that. At least try and keep them from breaking parts. That's where we're going to start. I also found, both Allison and I found, that we would like our seats moved up about 2 inches. So I'm going to move my seat up 2 inches. I'm going to move her seat up 4 inches so that she can see better. We have tons of room, with the cage and our helmets and everything. There's no reason not to move them up. We have also found that our head and neck restraint is not exactly what, we don't like it much. So I've been running a next gen, I think it's a Rev. The original one is a Rev. I've been running that one for a long time in the buggy in any course that I think I need to, keep from hurting my neck. And it's been great. I really like it in the buggy application. I like it so much that I actually bought a next gen Rev 2. And so now Allison and I both have one for in the truck. The problem with those in a monster truck is the straps, they come from your helmet about here and they go down and back to the collar. Now, even though you're restrained, it will keep you from stretching your neck this way. But in a monster truck, you really need your head to stay put. No movement. If you get movement forward, then you have movement back and you hit your helmet on the back of the seat, kind of get a whiplash thing going. It's not cool at all. It's not enjoyable. It's hard to have a good time or go hit anything big when you know that you're going to get a little bit of whip going. Both of us noticed that. If I haven't already posted it in here, I will post it in here. You will notice at our GoPro footage, you can see our head whipping in there. It looks worse in the GoPro than it feels in the truck, but our heads shouldn't move at all. So we need to refine that a little bit. I have actually bought a Hans unit in the hopes that the high back part of the Hans, I could have those straps going straight forward to my helmet. That way I could just, put the straps on so tight that the Hans is tight against the helmet. Then when I cinch into my shoulder harnesses and ratchet the belts down tight, basically your head will not move. That's what I was hoping for. Unfortunately, the way they built the Hans, it's just a higher collar that nearly touches your helmet, and the straps are still going down and back. So there's no gain there. A lot of the guys are running the Simpson Hybrid, and they're happy with it. But I've looked at the pictures, and they're doing the same thing. They're running the straps down, down and back, and I just know that's not going to work for us. Neither one of us want our helmets being pulled tighter onto our head. We've got a chin strap to hold it on. I just want straps that go straight forward. I need to find a head and neck restraint unit that has the higher back that goes up and will contact, the back of your helmet so we can get those straps going straight back and forth. I've found a couple of them that I'm looking at. I just need to research that deeper. but as soon as I find, that product that has, what I'm looking for, I'm going to order 2 of them so we can try them out. I think that's pretty much it. I know this is kind of a different video than what I've normally done. The next video will probably actually be fabrication, work in the shop again. Maybe I'll show a little bit on moving the seat and the shifter and all the stuff we have to move around to get the seats higher. And probably cover a little bit of beefing up the hydraulic cylinders and adding the components. Maybe if I find something definitive in the hydraulic system that is actually a problem when I tear into that, I'll definitely cover that and share that with you guys. But until then, that's pretty much it for this video. As always, thanks for watching. Have a good one.